Hello and welcome to my workshop. So today we'll be continuing on with this Mercedes Sprinter UPS delivery truck. It's going to be used for RC drifting. Alright, so let's get started. I am picking back up on the UPS van with the interior. Most of the reference photos of these delivery vans just had the factory interior. I started thinking about replicating the factory dash, but I figured a drift van would want to lighten things up a bit. So I decided to build a custom roll cage to hold the wheel and gauge cluster. To start, I added a curved section which would represent the firewall. It wasn't going to be seen very well, so I didn't bother to mold anything for this. The piece gives me a good place to attach the floorboard. I am using scale metal supply seats here. These seats come flat and are bent into shape. The look is perfect for this build since they look like a fixed race seat. To add to the look, some foam was cut and seat cushions were made. The foam is easily cut and can be sanded by hand or with a rotary tool. Any fuzzy bits left after sanding can be heat sealed with a small flame or a heat gun. I did decide to go with door panels though. It was easier to make door panels than to represent an inner door skin with the panel removed. The steering wheel, door panels, and seat risers are all painted. I went with a dark gray color just to make the interior a bit brighter and easier to see. Most of the fill-in work is complete on the exterior, but there are always little small imperfections which need to be filled. The filler primer gets a lot of them. Any that are too deep can be filled in with Tamiya putty. This air dries in an hour or so and sands to a fine powder without clogging the paper. In the past, I've just made simple boxes to raise up the seat. This approach is especially good with trucks, since you can use that hollow space for electronics or the battery. Here I wanted to change it up, so I designed these seat risers in Fusion 360 before resin printing them. In order to mount them to the floorboard, I glued on a piece of styrene. This allows me to keep the structure of the seat riser thin while using an M2 screw to hold it in place. You can see just how perfect these scale metal supply seats turn out with just a little work. I try to bolt in interior pieces where I can. Small screws are threaded into the base of the door panel to hold it in place. With the seats in good shape, I turn my attention to the dash. As mentioned, I'm going with a simple race-style hoop just to hold this wheel and gauge cluster. I braze on these small tabs from the Scale Metal Supplies kit. These tabs are pre-cut and can just be popped out of a larger sheet. A few seconds to clean up the point where it attaches, and they're ready to use. The dash bar consists of two tubes bent to match with small tubes bridging them together. The tabs allow me to mount these to the interior I made earlier. So getting all this held in place is made easy with the Scale Metal Supplies modular fixture table. I couldn't just leave the interior plain, so I 3D printed a mold. This was used to make a styrene engine cover. I just took some liberties with what it looks like, but I think it gets the idea across nicely. This piece also allows for more room underneath, since the area below of the cover is open. I spray on a heavy coat of black paint and sprinkle on the flocking. I have found that you can adjust the color of the flocking by what color you use as the glue. Now comes the fun part. I pull several bottles of paint and my tiny brushes. Details for the interior are added along with some smaller items. This includes a Sickie e-brake lever. I assumed that this was a must for any respectable drift van. A Tamiya scribe tool is used to cut the door openings. This is probably one of the best tools for making these, and it's amazing how much control you have with just a little practice. Of course, the body gets painted brown. I forgot the name of the color, but I am very pleased with how close to the UPS brown it turned out. Vinyl stickers and lettering are cut out using my Cricut. The body gets wet sanded back before placing the stickers. This allows me to seal them in with the clear coat. I thought about using some funny sayings, but in the end, I just went with the stock UPS wording. With the exterior complete, I can now start bolting in the interior. It's a little fiddly, but with a good pair of needle nose and some patience, all these pieces are added. The front grille with the chrome painted Mercedes logo is glued in place. I have tabs placed on the back of this to help align it to the body. The exterior also gets a few details. Small holes are drilled so 3D printed handles can be glued on. The front windshield is glued in place and some masking tape is used to hold it down until the glue dries. The van has working taillights and headlights. These are printed using a clear resin. The taillights were then painted red before LEDs were ran to both. The last detail is to add a trim ring that goes over the intakes on the hood. I spread CA glue down, which allows for a thin, even coat to be applied. I really stretched my abilities and learned so much making this van. It has been a lot of fun and looking forward to seeing what comes next. Until then, I'll see you on the rocks.